My name is Jackson Leisure, and I serve as the professor of religion at Southwestern College. And for the past year and a half, I have been part of a team exploring the 140-year saga of Southwestern from its founding in 1885 to 2025. In this second episode, we return to the beginning of our college in 1885 to understand why a group of Methodists decided to build a college on the plains of Kansas in what was then the frontier. And we explore how their vision and the Methodist spirit that motivated them continues to animate the builder spirit today. The builder spirit was baked into our college from its founding in 1885 by the Methodist Episcopal Church to be the college of the Southwest Kansas Conference. Steve Wilkie, a 1978 graduate who would eventually become the Dean of Students, said,
"So religious life is in the DNA of the founding of Southwestern College. The Methodists of 1885 said, where shall we build our college? Because we want to have people that are educated in character and in skills."
Here's Mari again.
At that time, Kansas was divided into 3 conferences. And Winfield was a part of the Southwest Conference, which served the southwest part of the state. And that's how we got our name. That's where Southwestern comes from.
This was a time in America where the Methodists and several other denominations were actively building colleges in many different areas of the country in order to fill the growing demand for teachers and pastors, specifically on the plains. Winfield was chosen by the Methodists as the place for their Southwest Kansas Conference College because of a generous land donation by the town. 85 acres crowned in its center by a beautiful hill. Classes began in 1886 with an enrollment of 43 students, largely from Kansas, to be formed as educators and ministers. Mari continues.
But that became the area we served, so that was the area where we recruited students, where the college, they were founded to do that, so that's where they recruited. So the student body was kids from small, rural, farm-related communities with strong Methodist churches in them. And that went on for 50, 60, 70 years. It was still very much in prominent when I came to school. That's who we were serving.
On June 3rd, 1889, Southwestern graduated its first of many classes. 3 students, 2 of which were female. The full inclusion of females from Southwestern's inception demonstrates an ethic of equality and radical inclusiveness which has marked the builder spirit throughout our saga. As Susan Cooksey, a 1975 graduate, recalls of her experience.
To me, it's recognizing the worth of every human being. The thing that made the difference there for me was my utter shock the first week on campus when somebody I didn't know passed me by and said, "Hello, how are you?" And I was used to being at a big high school where nobody talked to anybody except in their own little tight group. And I wasn't used to somebody saying hello to me. And it was students, it was faculty, it wasn't just my own teachers, it was the other teachers on campus. It was the president of the college, it was the dean, it was the registrar, it was somebody in admissions or, any other department. And students saying hello to each other. And realizing that this was a place I belonged just because I was there.
This radical inclusiveness can also be traced to our Methodist roots. For Methodism at its best teaches that all people are created in the image of God and are bearers of God's grace in their common humanity. It is this conviction that led Methodist missionaries to send Pablo del Rio, a Mexican, to Southwestern, who became our first person of color to graduate in 1896, just a decade after classes opened. In 1899, Elijah Pilgrim Geiger, the son of formerly enslaved persons and himself enslaved as an infant, became the first African American graduate. All this at a time when, in other places of the country not that far from Winfield, Kansas, African Americans were not yet considered equal citizens. Mary Williams, wife of 1968 graduate Willie Williams, says,
I think because of this environment here, that it was ingrained in him that nothing was going to happen.
These stories can be overwhelming. Susan and Don spoke about this.
It doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense. Like that how people could come to this little town and this little school and feel loved, but then the minute they step away, they can see evil. And they know that it's just something special about here. And it is so important
And
now.
if you can take this with you where you go
Yes.
to make the world better.
Yes.
We will explore more of these fascinating individual stories of the people who have made Southwestern in our next episode. Over the course of our 140-year saga, much has changed about Southwestern. We have grown from the original student body of less than 50 students to a campus which, since the 1940s, has consistently averaged somewhere between 500 to 600 students. We have diversified from a school with mostly Kansas Methodists to a diverse student body with students from almost every state, rural and urban areas, as well as international students, places ranging from countries in Europe and Africa, to China, to Saudi Arabia. Susan explains.
But there were people who came from all over the world. And there were some who probably felt like they didn't belong. There were people who left after a semester or after a year because the culture was so different. It was probably in some ways more welcoming than they were comfortable with.
Yeah.
But so many people from New York, so many people from the West Coast, so many people from Japan and Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and there was a guy from Persia, as he called it.
We have transitioned from a school focused in education and ministry to a more broadly liberal arts focus, with programs ranging from business to computer science to psychology and criminal justice to the natural sciences, all while maintaining strong programs in education and religion. Through all of these changes, several things have remained constant, which helps us better understand the builder spirit present at our college's founding and its building back after the fire. The first is an emphasis on quality education, as Steve Wilkie explains.
For the Methodists, the founder, John Wesley, comes out of an attitude that is portrayed in one of his famous statements, which is, I'm a man of one book, but I read many. Methodism, through its DNA, has always been intellectually curious. It's never run into a conflict between, for instance, science and religion. It's seen them as compatible at times, or at least complementary to human understanding. So we're kind of wired for the higher education environment through that lens.
And Carl Martin, a 1960 graduate who would eventually become president, says,
There has always been here at Southwestern a kind of small cluster of people who consistently speak for intellectual openness and honesty, and that is a part of what one does to be an effective person.
no matter the field, Southwestern has always been a leader in forming and preparing students for meaningful service in the world. Southwestern graduates have gone on to be doctors, lawyers, professors, ministers, entrepreneurs, and other professions, taking the builder spirit formed in them here into the world. Here's Steve again.
So when I look at the alumni base of Southwestern, I see clergy, I see school teachers, I see people that are on the school boards, on the community groups. I see a lot of alums that did volunteer service while they were here and live out lives that are making a positive difference in the communities they're in.
Although it may look different from the days of its founding, the Methodist spirit is still felt throughout our campus. It is felt on our emphasis on the importance and partnership of both faith and education. It is felt in the diversity of our student body, which can still be united around several core values. And it is felt in the radical inclusivity that has marked the builder spirit from the beginning. We'll explore some of these features of our saga in the next several episodes.